The U.S. Defense Secretary has announced the Pentagon is deploying 200 troops to Jordan to help prevent violence on the country's border with Syria. The forces will include logistical specialists and operational planners. Chuck Hagel has also stated the soldiers will help prepare for possible future deployments should the need arise to secure Syria's chemical weapons. For now, let's turn to Dr. Khan Halanan from the Foreign Policy in Focus. Thank you very much for being with us. Let's get right to this. Now, chemical weapons are behind this deployment, but we've seen WMDs used as a pretext for invasion in the past. Now, is the U.S. preparing a new intervention?
Well, it does appear that way. It certainly is an escalation. Up until now, the U.S. has relied on the Central Intelligence Agency in Jordan to train troops that are going into fight in Syria, and used some special forces and Central Intelligence Agency agents in Turkey. But this is the first time that we've had real formal U.S. military soldiers on the ground. And since a major job for these troops will be logistical, it does appear as if they're preparing the groundwork like they did for the invasion of Iraq by going to Saudi Arabia and preparing there for the kind of thing that led to the invasion of Iraq. It's a serious escalation and disturbing one.
Now, the Pentagon says that the 200 soldiers will just be replacing a similar contingent on the ground there. Do you go along with that, or is there more than meets the eye here?
No, I think there's more than meets the eye. I don't think these are the same kinds of troops. These are logistical troops. These are engineers. They're people who plan things like airfields and barracks and that kind of stuff. And there's talk about the chemical weapons. I mean, everybody knows Syria has chemical weapons. Syria doesn't make any secret about the fact. And for the last several months, the Obama administration has been talking about chemical weapons as a kind of a red line. Over which, if it's crossed, the U.S. would directly intervene. I think the concern here is that if there's some incident in which chemical weapons are used, it may not be used by the Syrian regime, may be used by somebody else or simply made up. You're suddenly in a situation where you've crossed the red line. And I don't see large numbers of U.S. troops going into Syria, but I do see the possibility that they could extend an air umbrella over Syria and knock out the Syrian Air Force.
Now, what about the idea of peace? Could sending troops so close to the border threaten any potential peace process by emboldening militant groups inside the country?
Well, I think this has been the problem all the way along. In other words, U.S. has talked about the fact they want a diplomatic resolution, but the diplomatic resolution is regime change. So by supporting the infiltration of insurgents from Saudi Arabia, from Turkey, from Oman, from Libya, essentially Iraq, essentially mujahideen, as was done in Afghanistan in the 1980s, by doing that, you essentially make it a life or death struggle with the Assad regime. And so I think by putting these troops here, I think what you're doing is that you are sort of reinforcing the insurgency, and you're taking very clear sides in the civil war inside Syria. And I think it moves it further from a diplomatic solution.
All right, interesting to hear your thoughts on the subject. Dr. Khan Halanan from the Foreign Policy in Focus. Thank you very much for being with us.
Glad to be with you.